Picture this. It's the pitch-black night of December 27th, 1948. A massive commercial aircraft is just cruising along peacefully at 8,300 feet. But in a matter of moments, it's going to be swallowed whole by a terrifying, completely unprecedented storm. Welcome. In today's Explainer, we're diving into what is arguably the most incredible survival story in all of aviation history. We're going to break down exactly how an impossible, absolute nightmare of a situation turned into a 9-year testament to human endurance. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's establish exactly what's at stake here. 134. That is 134 men, women, and crew members aboard a Douglas DC-3 passenger plane. They were flying out of Miami, totally expecting just a routine trip, right? Instead, they found themselves completely trapped on a doomed flight, absolutely helpless as they flew right into the heart of the infamous Bermuda Triangle. Now, I want you to put yourself in their shoes for just a second. Imagine an entire passenger plane, packed full of life and plans for the future, just vanishing, wiped from the radar without a single trace. No wreckage, no distress signal, nothing. For nearly a decade, the whole world was asking, where on earth did they go? Well, let's walk through their timeline and figure it out. So everything was perfectly normal until exactly 8:13 p.m. That's when Captain Robert Miller radioed in a minor technical issue to air traffic control. Just 10 seconds later, gone. They had crossed into the Bermuda Triangle and got hit by this violent, unprecedented cyclone. The plane was getting tossed around like a literal toy. And in those final, terrifying moments in the air, every single piece of electronic equipment, the compass, the radar, the whole shebang, completely died. They were flying totally blind. As the plane is plummeting helplessly towards some uncharted island, you could imagine they're bracing for the absolute worst. But then, a miracle. A literal miracle. They crashed directly into a towering ancient tree. Its hundreds of thick branches acted almost like a giant net, catching the fuselage and absorbing that catastrophic impact. It's crazy, but that one incredible stroke of luck miraculously saved all 134 lives on board. But as we'll see, surviving the crash was just step one. The ingenuity these people displayed right out of the gate is just staggering. They're stranded on an island with zero fresh water, so they immediately rig up rainwater collection. But the wildest part? Getting a fire going. A teenage Goy actually used the lenses from his eyeglasses to focus the sun's rays onto dry leaves. It took hours of patience, but they finally got a thin line of smoke and then a life-saving fire. Meanwhile, Dr. Evelyn Reed, who happened to be a retired Army doctor on the flight, jumped right in, setting up medical triage to treat the 10 severely injured passengers with whatever salvage supplies she could find. But of course, that initial relief of, just surviving the crash, it faded fast. The dark reality of the jungle set in. Just trying to forage for food led to their very first tragedy when a middle-aged man ate a poisonous fruit and passed away in agony shortly after. The psychological toll of that was incredibly heavy. The hopelessness got so overwhelming that 5 of the youths, 4 boys and a girl, secretly cobbled together a small raft from the wreckage and headed out into the treacherous ocean at night. They simply vanished, never to be seen again. Now here's the real kicker. While the survivors were down there crafting spears from scrap metal to hunt wild boars and basically building a self-sustaining ecosystem, the outside world was moving on. The U.S. government actually executed the largest search operation in history at the time. We're talking $4.5 million spent. But after finding absolutely zero trace of the wreckage, they gave up. The operation was completely abandoned, and all 134 people were officially declared missing and presumed dead. Fast forward to year 2, and the reality on the island had drastically shifted. They weren't just barely surviving anymore, they were actually building a functional society. They started small-scale farming, invented new fishing techniques. But the real turning point? The birth of the first baby on the island to a young couple. Hearing a baby's cry after a year and a half of pure suffering, it brought this massive, profound surge of hope that breathed completely new life into the entire camp. But even with that renewed hope, the desire to get back to civilization was a fire that just wouldn't go out. An engineer named Arthur Vance actually spearheaded an ambitious project to build a large-scale, sturdy boat out of plane wreckage and jungle vines. 25 of the strongest survivors set sail, promising to come back with help. But man, the ocean is unforgiving. A deadly storm capsized their boat. Only a few managed to swim back to shore, the rest perished. 16 lives lost in a single day. So, the harsh reality of those first 5 years? It's grim.
From the original 134 passengers, the population dropped to 114 by year 3, mostly due to illness and those desperate escape attempts. By year 5, that number had crashed down to just 98. The extreme isolation and that brutal environment were just slowly, systematically erasing them.
And by year 5, with natural resources and food really starting to dry up, a deep psychological fracture hit the camp. The survivors literally split into two totally opposing ideological camps. On one side, you had Captain Miller leading a group that demanded they never, ever stop trying to escape. On the other side, a really desperate faction arguing that every single attempt to leave just brought more death and that they had to accept this island as their permanent grave. You can imagine, the tension was just palpable. Okay, it was during this incredibly tense period that a scouting party went deeper inland looking for food and stumbled onto something absolutely terrifying. They found the ruins of an ancient civilization. But it gets worse. Inside a nearby cave, they found a human skeleton. And sitting right next to that skeleton, a rusting piece of metal from a totally different airplane. They weren't the first ones to crash here. This chilling discovery really deepened the whole Bermuda Triangle lore for them. Was this island just cursed to be a graveyard for anyone who found it? The reality of that discovery just crushed whatever tiny bit of morale they had left. By year 7, through relentless disease, accidents, and sheer despair, the population had plummeted to just 82 remaining souls. They had essentially thrown in the towel, completely worn down by the elements, and were really just waiting for the end to come. And, the end really seemed to arrive in year 8. The island was absolutely battered by a devastating cyclone that shredded all their hard-built shelters and completely destroyed their crops. And as if Mother Nature wasn't done with them, weeks later, a violent, catastrophic earthquake shook the very foundation of the island. Mountains crumbled, ancient trees were uprooted. The survivors were left sitting in the rain, trembling, their spirit totally broken. It felt like all was truly lost. But, and this is absolutely wild, that destructive earthquake, the one that seemed like the final nail in the coffin, it actually pivoted their story in the most incredible way imaginable. The massive tremors shifted the long-dormant wreckage of the airplane, and as that heavy metal moved, it accidentally unearthed buried wires and the plane's old radio equipment, which had been trapped under debris for nearly a decade. And then, the most unimaginable luck struck. Right as Arthur Vance, the engineer, was inspecting those exposed wires, an intense solar flare erupted from the sun, heavily impacting Earth's magnetic field. This incredibly rare scientific phenomenon, combining perfectly with those shifted wires, miraculously sent a surge of power straight to the dead radio. The green light on the console literally flickered to life. I mean, what are the odds? Vance didn't even hesitate. With shaking hands, he grabbed the microphone and delivered this exact, highly emotional transmission. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is flight NC 1602. Is anyone listening? We are alive. Hundreds of miles away, in an air traffic control room in Miami, an operator heard that crackling voice. When Vance confirmed the flight number and the captain's name, the room fell dead silent. 9 impossible years of silence, finally broken. The U.S. military instantly mobilized. Now, satellite technology back then wasn't advanced enough to pinpoint them perfectly, so they had to scour every single island in that area of the Bermuda Triangle. But finally, the survivors saw it. A tiny speck on the horizon that slowly grew into a towering U.S. Navy rescue ship. Those 82 weary, exhausted survivors sprinted to the beach, screaming, crying, and just collapsing with overwhelming joy. They were finally going home. When you look back at it, the final toll of the ordeal is incredibly harsh. Out of those 134 initial passengers, 52 perished to disease, poisonous food, and those tragic escape attempts. But honestly, the fact that 82 people, more than 60% of the flight, managed to survive 9 brutal years on an uncharted island with nothing but their own ingenuity, that is an absolute statistical miracle. Naturally, their unbelievable story completely captivated the world. Just 1 year after they were rescued, in 1958, their journey was immortalized in a massive best-selling book by James Baldwin called Lost in the Echo. That book turned these 82 survivors into modern legends. It really stands as this permanent testament to human resilience and our sheer refusal to give up, even in the absolute darkest of circumstances. It's so easy for us to just sit back, look at the timeline, and analyze the numbers, right? But I want to leave you with a real challenge today. Imagine, for just a moment, knowing for a fact that the entire world has given up on you. that you've been declared dead and literally no one is coming to save you. What would keep you going? What is that spark inside of you that would refuse to let the fire die out? Think about that. And remember the 82 souls of Flight NC 1602, who somehow, against all odds, found their answer.